Transformation. A complete change in somebody's something. For example, the way in which we work has undergone a complete transformation in the past decade.
Trap. A piece of equipment for catching animals. For example, a fox with its leg in a trap. Trauma. A mental condition caused by severe shock, stress or fear, especially when the harmful effects last for a long time. For example, the effects of trauma and stress on the body.
Trick. To make somebody believe something which is not true, especially in order to cheat them. For example, trick somebody.
Trouble.
Trouble. A problem, worry, difficulty, etc. or a situation causing this. For example, we have trouble getting staff.
Trousers.
Trousers. A piece of clothing that covers the lower body and is divided into two parts to cover each leg separately. For example, a pair of gray trousers. Trust. The belief that somebody/something is good, sincere, honest, etc. and will not try to harm or trick you. For example, our partnership is based on trust. Trust. The belief that somebody/something is good, sincere, honest, etc. and will not try to harm or trick you. For example, our partnership is based on trust.
Trustee. A person or an organization that has control of money or property that has been put into a trust for somebody. For example, the bank will act as trustees for the estate until the child is 18.
Turn. To move or make something move around a central point. For example, the wheels of the car began to turn.
Twist. To bend or turn something into a particular shape. For example, twist the wire to form a circle.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Not letting you feel physically comfortable, unpleasant to wear, sit on, etc. For example, uncomfortable shoes.
Underground.
Underground. Under the surface of the ground. For example, an underground bunker/tunnel.
Underground.
Underground. Under the surface of the ground. For example, an underground bunker/tunnel.
Underlying.
Underlying. Important in a situation but not always easily noticed or stated clearly. For example, the underlying assumption is that the amount of money available is limited.
Undermine.
Undermine. To make something, especially somebody's confidence or authority, gradually weaker or less effective. For example, our confidence in the team has been seriously undermined by their recent defeats. Understanding. The knowledge that somebody has about a particular subject or situation. For example, students will gain a broad understanding of the workings of Parliament.
Upset.
Upset. Unhappy or disappointed because of something unpleasant that has happened. For example, I understand how upset you must be feeling.
Urge. To advise or try hard to persuade somebody to do something. For example, urge somebody to do something. Vague. Not clear in a person's mind. For example, to have a vague impression, a memory, a recollection of something.
Valid.
Valid. That is legally or officially acceptable. For example, do you have a valid passport?
Validity.
Validity. The state of being legally or officially acceptable. For example, the period of validity of the agreement has expired.
Value.
Value. How much something is worth in money or other goods for which it can be exchanged. For example, to go up/rise/increase in value.
Vanish. To disappear suddenly and or in a way that you cannot explain. For example, he turned around and vanished into the house.
Vein. Any of the tubes that carry blood from all parts of the body towards the heart. For example, the jugular vein.
Version.
Version. A form of something that is slightly different from an earlier form or from other forms of the same thing. For example, version of something.
Vertical. Going straight up or down from a level surface or from top to bottom in a picture, etc. For example, the vertical axis of the graph.
Vessel. A tube that carries blood through the body of a person or an animal, or liquid through the parts of a plant. For example, to burst or rupture a blood vessel.
View. What you can see from a particular place or position, especially beautiful countryside. For example, view of something.
Violence. Violent behavior that is intended to hurt or kill somebody. For example, police do not think this killing was a random act of violence.
Violent. Involving or caused by physical force that is intended to hurt or kill somebody. For example, violent crime/criminals. Visit. To go to see a person or a place for a period of time. For example, my parents are coming to visit me next week.
Voice. The sound or sounds produced through the mouth by a person speaking or singing. For example, I could hear voices in the next room.
Voting.
Voting. The action of choosing somebody/something in an election or at a meeting. For example, he was eliminated in the first round of voting.
Wait. An act of waiting, an amount of time waited. For example, the wait seemed interminable. Wake. To stop sleeping, to make somebody stop sleeping. For example, I always wake early in summer.
Walk. A journey on foot, usually for pleasure or exercise. For example, let's go for a walk.
Want. To have a desire or a wish for something/somebody. For example, want somebody/something.
Warm. At a fairly high temperature in a way that is pleasant, rather than being hot or cold. For example, warm weather or temperatures of air.
Warming.
Warming. The process of making something, or of becoming, warm or warmer. For example, atmospheric warming.
Warn. To tell somebody about something, especially something dangerous or unpleasant that is likely to happen, so that they can avoid it. For example, warn somebody.
Warning.
Warning. A statement, an event, etc. telling somebody that something bad or unpleasant may happen in the future so that they can try to avoid it. For example, I had absolutely no warning.
Wash. An act of cleaning somebody or something using water and usually soap. For example, these towels are ready for a wash. Wash. An act of cleaning somebody or something using water and usually soap. For example, these towels are ready for a wash.
Watch.
Watch. A type of small clock that you wear on your wrist, or in the past, carried in your pocket. For example, she kept looking anxiously at her watch.
Wave. A raised line of water that moves across the surface of the sea, ocean, etc. For example, huge waves were breaking on the shore.
Weaken. To make somebody as something less strong or powerful, to become less strong or powerful. For example, the team has been weakened by injury.
Weapon.
Weapon. An object such as a knife, gun, bomb, etc. that is used for fighting or attacking somebody. For example, modern nuclear weapons are much more destructive than either biological or chemical weapons.
Wear. To have something on your body as a piece of clothing, a decoration, etc. For example, he was wearing a new suit.
Weight. How heavy somebody/something is, which can be measured in, for example, kilograms or pounds. For example, in weight.
Welcome.
Welcome. Accepted or wanted somewhere. For example, I'll go.
Welcome.
Welcome. Accepted or wanted somewhere. For example, I'll go.
Welcome.
Welcome. Accepted or wanted somewhere. For example, I'll go.
What? Used in questions to ask for particular information about somebody's something. For example, what is your name? What? Used in questions to ask for particular information about somebody's something. For example, what is your name?
Which. Used in questions to ask somebody to be exact about one or more people or things from a limited number. For example, which is better exercise, swimming or tennis? Which. Used in questions to ask somebody to be exact about one or more people or things from a limited number. For example, which is better exercise, swimming or tennis?
Whisper. A low, quiet voice or the sound it makes. For example, in a whisper.
Wife. The woman that somebody is married to, a married woman. For example, I met my wife at university.
Wild. Living or growing in natural conditions, not kept in a house or on a farm. For example, wild animals/birds/flowers.